I'm very pleased to welcome you all here. We're doing something slightly unusual tonight. We are going to explore subjects that some of our faculty members are thinking about. You might have wondered why it's called think pieces. It's exactly what it means. It means that I asked a few faculty members to come tonight and not talk about their past projects and their past accomplishments, because that's already in the past, so that's not that interesting. And the only way you can engage them is to say it was wonderful. If you say it's not wonderful, they don't want to talk to you. So I think it's important to have the kind of discussion that really taps into what they're thinking right now. What's occupying their mind? What are they feeling passionate about? What's the kind of thing that keeps them up at night? And what do they want to work on in the future? So this is really active stuff that's still boiling, it's still in the cauldron. And I think it's important to have an opportunity to hear, for all of you, to hear what they have to offer you. So this is an intellectual feast. They're tiny morsels, so they're all little hors d'oeuvres. They're not a full meal. The time is very restricted. And I think it's wonderful to have this kind of audience. We have among you students, parents. We also have alums. And I'm delighted to say that we have our new president, Dr. Joel Bloom, with us. And I will call on him in a minute. But first I'd like to explain how this whole thing works. When you have 5 academics, each of them capable of talking for several hours without taking a breath, it's a little bit difficult. So the rules we've established for tonight is that they're talking about one major thought or one major theme that's going through their head, not 50 projects, but that gives them about 10 minutes. And if they have a grace period of 2 minutes, if after 12 minutes they don't sit down and let their colleague talk, I will stand next to them in a threatening way. I'm taller than any of them, so if after 12 minutes it still isn't working, I shall get physical. They all know this. So let's hope that we can keep to the time. And then afterwards, we will have a reception where you have an opportunity to talk to these 5 and engage them in conversations about what they're thinking about. Now, one of the reasons I think this is so important to do at a university is we're not just individuals. We're a community of scholars. We pride ourselves to be part of a community of scholars. And very often we think of this as a community as just being in the same building. But really, this is a place where thoughts are born, where people develop new passions, and this should be a continuing conversation about what we believe in, what we want to work on, what we're going to work on, what we want to discuss as part of this community of scholars. So you're seeing a small portion of our faculty tonight, but my aim is to make sure that all faculty members here feel very much involved as part of this community of scholars. So this is a little soupçon that gives you an idea of what that might be like, but we will continue this. So this is not a one-time event. And eventually you'll hear from all the faculty and what they're occupied with. So if it is all right with you, Joel, I would like to call on the president of this university, Dr. Joel Bloom, to say a couple of words.
Now you can tell Urs was thinking because he lowered the microphone. Right? First of all,
I'm not standing yet next to you in a threatening
way, right? First of all, welcome this evening, and kudos to what our College of Architecture and Design is attempting to do here. After all, this is the academy. We're not only expected to think, we're expected to think well. We're expected to subject that thought to criticism and to improve whatever our thinking is at that point in time and going forward. And just to relate this, recently I've had an opportunity to travel overseas visit a couple other universities and industries overseas. And notwithstanding this whole issue of competition and global competition, when you talk to the folks very often overseas about being at an American university, you know what they envy? They envy our ability to think, to be creative, to be problem solvers in their own countries. They don't necessarily think that is what's happening at their academies or in their industries, and that's why they're so willing to come here and in some cases borrow, in other cases imitate, in other cases just out and out steal some of what we're doing here. So again, to create the climate or to lead as many, and as I said earlier today at a different function, very often COAD leads what goes on here at this university. So the idea of putting on something called think pieces is again very clever. Look forward to hearing some of them. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stay for all of it, but I certainly look forward to it, and I know we have some outstanding faculty who are participating. So thank you. Look forward to hearing some more. Thank you, Urs.
Now, the worst part of any of these things is reading somebody's CV and talking about how they did in high school in the hip, skip, and jump, or whatever it is. That's really of no interest. So I think tonight we try to dispense with that by giving you their CVs in written form, and that's much more complete, and you can read it more than once. If I said it, you might forget it. So I will, without further ado, call on our first speaker, Jose Alcala.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not going to tell you too much about what I'm thinking, so I'm going to blow this whole thing out of the water for now. It's more about the voices I hear in my head, and they're voices all the time, constantly talking to me. And these voices are more thoughts or philosophies, and they're philosophies that come from a past, my past. So not only am I not thinking, I'm also talking about the past. Two things that the dean said we were not to do. But the past is what I see as the future. This is how I define myself. And that definition comes from a kind of a blue-collar mentality, this kind of workhorse mentality, the idea that work equals manipulating your environment. Work is not about thinking about stuff. Work is not about labor. Work is about taking things and changing them. So for me, it's about change. So I want work. I do work. All I know how to do is work. I work all the time, and I don't regret it. Sometimes I complain about it. I miss a lot of evenings, having a good time. I often lose a lot of sleep, and my students know this. I talk about it all the time. I don't sleep. I sleep less than they do most of the time. But this is what I do and all I know how to do. It all started with my folks, my mom. She was a sweet little, she's a sweet little woman, but a devout Roman Catholic. So everything was about punishment. And though she never really intended for us to do that, nor did I ever try it, I'm sure it's not boring. So I'm not going to tell you to do this sort of thing. My dad was not so funny. He didn't have much of a sense of humor, but he was a workhorse too. He had, for some bizarre reason, he had a bucket of crooked nails in the basement. I don't know where he got them, but they existed. And for punishment, whenever he saw us bored, he would say, "Go down and straighten nails." And I could tell you that that was probably the most therapeutic Zen experience I've ever had. My brother and I down there with little hammers, straightening out nails. It sounds bizarre, but it was really therapeutic. I enjoyed that quite a bit. So this is the lesson. There are 10 lessons that I'm going to tell you based on my hardware and blue-collar experience. So lesson 1, it's not right to be idle. You must produce all the time. You must be doing things all the time. You must be thinking and working all the time. Idleness is uselessness. You might know the reference here from a very good book. I'll leave it at that. This is one of my most important mentors, Joe Bernasconi. A very interesting guy, blue-collar guy. He worked in the hardware store. He went there when he was in the early 50s. After World War II, he served in the military, in the Navy. Big dude, 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds, a horse of a guy. And the sweetest guy you'll ever meet. So he thought everything could be cured with vitamin E. Put it on everything. I don't know where he got this idea from, but it really helped in one situation. There was a cat that found its way into the hardware store. It was a cat that was pregnant, and it was in very bad shape. Somehow it got into a big fight. It was protecting, obviously, its pregnancy, and it was a complete mess. So what does he do? He puts vitamin E on it. And he spent days and days applying vitamin E onto this cat. He saved it. The cat had kittens. And I thought that was a wonderful thing. You know, it taught me a lot about a big, burly man who could turn around and become such a sensitive man. He would stay up nights with this cat. So this cat became part of our domicile, or part of our home there, part of the hardware store. Became our mascot. The kittens went away, but the cat stayed with us. Her name was Mommy because of the fact that she was pregnant. So lesson number 2, protect and nurture your creations. All of them, even the ugly ones, the hideous ones, you must. Now, when I tell you that she was mangled, she got into a fight, she probably got run over by something, she was really, really mangled, okay? She lost an ear, she lost an eye, and she lost a tail. All that was left in the tail was 1 inch of tail left. So we used to joke around with her because you couldn't tell whether she was coming or going half the time because she looked like a one-eyed cat walking backwards sometimes. It's a bit of a joke that we used around the hardware store. So that's lesson number 3. See with all your senses. Sometimes the eye is deceiving, right? Brings us to, now these are all the characters that I grew up with. I started in this hardware store when I was 11 years old. All right, I stayed there till I was 22. So I learned a lot from these guys, these blue-collar guys. One of them was Sickle. He always gave us some really good advice. And one of these is definitely good advice. Don't ever risk doing this. Don't think you're above the wind. No, you do it in the wind, you're going to get it back at you. Right? So don't try that. It's a high-risk situation. Joe, one day he came home, or he came to the store to lock up. He had a few drinks in him, and he gave us a challenge, all 3 of us. My brother worked there, I worked there, my cousin worked there. 3 of us. We were 17, 18, and 19 years old. He told us, you want to double your money? Because it was payday. He paid in cash. You want to double your money? You guys, if you can pin me down, you can double your money. Now, this was like making a deal with the devil. You know something's just not right. You know, you're going to lose because it was just too good to be true. So we didn't take him up on his offer. So that comes to lesson number 4. Take big risks, but don't make bets you can't win. Spike, this guy, if you wanted somebody to get your back, that's the guy you wanted, Spike. Spike was a Navy SEAL. He was called Spike because he had a flat top. He was about 6'3", big guy, tattoos everywhere. Nice guy, really nice guy. But he never cracked a joke. But one time some guys were, roughing me up a little bit, and he saw it, and he gave me this advice, which I think is great advice. Right? And I used it. I used it one time, 2 years ago. I was at a meeting, a site meeting, a project in Battery Park City. I do some renewable energy consulting. I was sitting there with about 5 guys from the local 3 electricians. So, they all had kind of Long Island accents, if you know what I mean. And these guys were really giving me a hard time because they priced this job out and they could not deliver it as designed. So they were trying to change it. And I stuck to my ground. I'm like, no, we're going to do it this way. This is the best way. So he keeps giving me a hard time. One of these guys keeps giving me a hard time, the owner of the electrical contractor company. And I was insistent on sticking with it. So this guy started calling me names. Now that's fine. That doesn't bother me at all. You can call me all kinds of names. But then he said, I think you're up to no good. I think you're getting a little money on the side from this company you keep specifying. And that just, I lost it there. That really pissed me off. Don't mess with my integrity. So I got up, I got a little physical, you know. I started to gesture. I looked at the architect who's standing right next to me, and he's a famous architect, by the way. I won't name who he was. He looks at me with big eyes and like, what do you want me to do, you know? So he was clearly not, he didn't have my back. So I was in this on my own. So then I look at the exits to make sure I know where the exits are. And so I go after this guy in a gestural way. I didn't intend to hit him, but let's see what happens. And he backed off. Thank goodness he backed off. So it paid to kind of get in front of his face. So lesson number 5, defend your honor. Always defend your honor. That's all you got. Okay. We go back to Joe. This was good advice at the hardware store. People would always walk in with one idea and leave with something else. They always went in thinking they knew what they wanted, but in fact, they didn't know what they wanted at all. You had to tell them what they wanted. You had to be smarter than them, right? So be smart. But that means you have to educate yourself, or else you're as dumb as they are, right? This guy was bald before bald was cool, right? He was like Kojak bald. And we nicknamed him Baldylocks. We didn't tell him that in his face, but we nicknamed him Baldylocks. These are all real people, real nicknames. All of them had nicknames. But he would always joke around like this. But this guy was an amazing guy. He escaped from Czechoslovakia. He lost his family during that escape. He had a rough life, but yet he had a great sense of humor. Okay, and I'm going to go fast. Lesson 6, be the smartest one in the room. It's always be the smartest one in the room, right? But you got to work at it. Okay. This guy, now I won't tell you too much about that. You already know the phrase. But that's really his name. This is not a nickname. And I thought that was really funny. Me, 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 me. Pee-wee, another cool guy. Pee-wee is a very cool guy. Really short guy, another Navy guy. This is really good advice. But what this really means is that, don't play games. Don't BS me. I understand it when you're BSing me. So this brings us to lesson number 7. You're not as smart as you think. And don't try to convince me otherwise, all right? Don't BS me. It's so transparent. 1 minute, okay. This guy, Joe, I worked with him a lot. He was, the gutsiest part about him is that this is about tools, right? About being able to handle tools. And now I'm feeling a little rushed. But he basically said, hold a chisel, a cold chisel, and he took a sledgehammer, and he was going to break some stone with that sledgehammer. Now, that meant a lot of trust on my part. I was a kid. I was 12 years old, holding a cold chisel, and he wielding a sledgehammer. But he was so good at it, so accurate, he never missed once. I closed my eyes the whole time. This is a very sweet guy. I think this is one of the best things he ever said, and I still use it in my classes today. You got to be good first before you can be great. You got to work hard. You got to put the time in. And his name is not Ajax. That's his nickname. He was one of the first Spaniards to come to that part of the neighborhood. And he walked in and he asked for a hox. And nobody knew what it was, a hox, and he meant Ajax, and we kind of coined that. Lesson number 8. You got to earn street cred. You got to work hard, and you got to earn it. So you got to master your tools. All right, next. Fast, cheap, good, pick 2. This takes too long. Drac was an electrician. He had 2 front teeth missing because he got hit with conduit. So we called him Drac. All right.
I'm about to get threatening.
Okay. 2 more lessons. Is a frogs as watertight? I mean, this guy, it was, of course it was. So lesson number 9, say yes to everything, but be sure you can keep your promises. Lesson number 10, this one takes too long to talk about, so I'm going to, but Paul Bunyan was a really big dude who threatened me with cute things and pinched me in the butt.
To do the same thing.
All right. I'm not going to tell you this last one. You're too bad. He's taking me off the stage. So Gracie was an interesting woman.
You have your lesson? Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.